From green tech to AI, the latest innovations are rapidly reshaping our economies. But where do young people sit in this transformation? And can they be a bridge between different parts of the world? Just some of the questions I put to our panel of experts in Brussels. Here are the highlights. Ms. Liang, you've been working in Brussels for many years.
Exactly.
How is Europe seen by young people in China?
And Europe is very famous in China for its, the base of talents, and it's very powerful, the foundation for research and whatever. It is a high place, and it's also the destination for Chinese investment. So Europe represents quite a, let's say, popular image for Chinese, in particular young Chinese, I would say.
Do you see a strong desire of young Chinese people to engage with Europe, to work with Europe, to work in Europe?
Definitely. Europe really represents a very, very nice destination from all dimensions.
I've asked the question how young Chinese think about Europe. How do young Europeans think about China? And is there a similar drive to explore opportunities?
There is a huge desire for the European youth to explore what China is doing. We all know the most tech hubs are based in China. There is a lot of room for cooperation and a lot of learning mutual learning opportunities. We do recognize and we do acknowledge that the rapid advancement at the technological level are happening in China, and we have a lot to learn in order to be competitive. On the other side, we must acknowledge that we are good at regulating. The European Union was the first one in the world to regulate artificial intelligence. Therefore, of course, there is a lot of room for mutual learning and cooperation.
Yeah.
My field is about education. The University of Italy have a lot of partnership with Chinese university, and we have a lot of students that every year they move for 1 month, 2 weeks, 1 year from China to Italy, to China, with sharing of skills, sharing of best practice. Though I think that is so strong, this type of relationship, especially in the educational system.
There is a lot of distance between Europe and China. Geographical, political, social, cultural. We're not neighbors, right? Yet, as we've heard, there is a desire to, engage and to get closer. What are the biggest obstacles, apart from the language, I suppose, but what are the biggest obstacles for, ambitious entrepreneurs in young people in China and in Europe, to move ahead with their dreams and their plans?
I'm from the China Chamber of Commerce, so and for us, it's very easy to identify some barriers for entrepreneurship and cooperation. If we can complain a little bit about the overregulation. So we see a lot of obstacles because when Chinese, for instance, AI companies, we have quite a lot, very young entrepreneurs. They wanted to enter the EU, but they have to pay a huge cost regarding compliance.
Well, the European Commission would tell you that these regulations are for everybody, right? Asians, Americans, Europeans. Yeah. Okay, I mentioned distances. Now we're living in a time of new technologies designed to help us overcome distances. Does it help already in the business world, or Antonello, from your perspective?
Of course. About technology, especially of AI, we have two sides. In one side, they help too much, for example, for reduce the barrier, for help in our work. In other side, but we have another problem. A lot of workers are losing the job. I think that this innovation is not real innovation, because in one side, in technology's way, we are going up, but in the other side, in the social field, we are going down. So we have to balance this type of things.
If I may add on the point made by Antonello, innovation and technology are supposed to drive inclusive and sustainable growth, but only if they are paired with equal access. And I would like to emphasize this word, equal. When we talk in the landscape of technology, I think we can refer first of all to digital tools. I had the opportunity to witness the launch of several online platforms in order to reskill and upskill young people to be ready for the job market. And this means that if we want really to the technology to be our best friend in the future, as for example the products that his company is producing, we need to take into consideration the human being dimension. We are not robots. Robots are supposed to help us, but of course not to substitute our human intelligence, because this is something I think we cannot substitute. And I think that we have to invest in infrastructures, we have to invest in digital literacy, and we have to put it in place in order to advance in the proper way, specifically for the future generations, if we want to preserve their well-being.
Ms. Liang, the Chinese perspective here, skills, accessibility, education, how's the situation in China?
I think China has really made huge progress regarding the talent. We have quite a lot of graduates. China is also promoting the vocational skills trainings as well. But China has a really a large base of graduates who are definitely ready for the workplace, and they're very innovative.
Teenagers of today are basically born into this world with AI. They grow up with all this. How can we bring them together when it comes to, innovation? Should we think of some sort of exchange, youth exchange between Europeans and Chinese?
And if I have to think about what innovation means to me, I would say I would use just a verb, which is bridging. We need to bridge skills, we need to bridge sectors, we need to bridge competencies, we need to bridge generations, because innovation, in my opinion, is not only made by youth, but it's also made by people that have already experience in it, so that we can advance together. And let me tell you, it's also bridging countries or regions, in our case, for example.
Mr. Zhang, I'm interested in your perspective. When you hire people, young people, what are you looking at?
In past few months, a lot of European different university teams, school teams, they come to our company to visiting, to have a tour as a tourist, and they play with robots. So this is a very good bridge. So we want more and more these kind of events and activities.
Sorry, I just couldn't help but jump in, because China has introduced like a visa-free policy for basically all Europeans, and we see also a lot of European youngsters. They're very enthusiastic to visit China. So I think China is quite open, and I think you as well. I mean, via the Erasmus education program, a lot of Chinese talents were also admitted in the European universities, research institutes. And then you see that between China and the EU, there's the overarching framework. It's called China-EU People-to-People Exchange High-Level Dialogue. This is a vice premier level of dialogue, which can discuss, for implementation to how to facilitate the youth exchange in innovation and so on. So we can do a lot.
What can we learn from each other? Question to the Europeans. What is it in China that you think we should emulate? And you guys from China, what is it in Europe that you think the Chinese should emulate?
So I think for Unitree, what we're doing is go to the markets and learn from the markets. We think it's very important, more communication with each other, whatever from government level, public level, private level, interface level. So it's very important. And we go to Belgium. Belgium have Belgian special things, and Germany special things. So they have different requirements. So what we're doing is go to the markets and learn the markets. So go to the public, learn from public. So it's very important. And do the different innovation, and faster and repeatedly do the innovation.
I think that from China we can learn the way they are becoming competitive in the tech sector, and I think there is a lot of room for cooperation in agri-tech and all the other related fields. On the other side, I think that what we can export, if I'm allowed to use the term, is the legal framework we have. Because we do uphold to our values, and we do take into account the safety of our people. I think that those are the main two things that could lead us to be co-leaders in the world.
So from Chinese side, I think it's about the how to balance your working life. I do hope that sometimes we can adapt a little bit to learn that we need a little bit more time, to enjoy the life as well, to be eased down a little bit, to calm down. That's the one thing, if I may, is to tell my fellow Chinese.
yes.
China is one of the model about technologies, about industrial development. In the other side, the Europe that dream to become the biggest research innovation center, I think that Europe have to collect a lot, and in the same way, the China have to collect a lot from Europe, because also only with this sharing is possible to have to grow together.
I would like your feedback, your opinion. Any question you have too.
I have a question for the panelists from Europe. So what are your suggestions for China, to do more or to do better to attract the European youth or European young professionals to China to study and work?
In my opinion, what I see sometimes is the lack of awareness, specifically when it comes to young people that live in rural areas, or for women, for example. What happens most of the times, and what I unfortunately and sadly heard most of the times, when I was, for example, mentioning Erasmus, we also have the Erasmus overseas that allows our students to go to China, is I don't either know about this. Where do I find this? Therefore, I think that those opportunities, if they are targeted for a specific group of people, we should make sure that the opportunity reaches the right people.
So I would just like to thank you very much for the comments, because I myself went to China around 23 years ago and stayed there for 18 years. So as I started as a young entrepreneur and came back as a not so young entrepreneur anymore. But certainly I think absolutely what drives, I think, Europeans there is the incredible dynamism that you feel, this not complaining and doing, and also very much, it's paradoxical perhaps in a way, but there's a very large amount of economic and I would say business freedom. To set up a business in China, we're talking about regulation again, it's extremely easy. It's really this if you want to do things, you can get them done over there. And coming back to Europe, it's a little bit a sensation of, oh my gosh, you're with a barrier of all kinds of regulations that are not just there, but they are very complex, difficult to understand. And I think this is something that Europe really should paradoxically learn from a country that is supposed to be communist, but that is actually, in an economic sense, very much more business friendly, curiously.
Interesting.
Anyway, just observations.
Question for the Europeans. What can we do to retain a larger number of these Chinese students here in Europe, which in my mind could then facilitate easier business between Europe and China? Just that question.
Yeah, maybe.
There's a competition here. I mean, China wants more talents to go back. But love it to see what Europeans wanted to do.
This is a problem that we are having. I come from Italy, and this problem in Italy is even more evident, that we are struggling in retaining our talents. One of the things that we should look at more attentively is how to make sure that young people can already gain experience during their studies. For example, I had the opportunity to study in Canada for a short period of my life, and in there they had the so-called co-op programs. Those are amazing because you enter the university when you are 18, and they have a program which is structured in the following way. You study for 6 months and you work for 6 months. At the end of your bachelor, you have done 3 different working experience and you have already a bachelor. It costs you only 1 year more, but you go to the workforce with 1.5 years of experience, which is already great. This is a great advantage in terms of competitiveness. Once again, here, the key, is ecosystem, is try to find what are the countries that are doing this in the best way, what are the things that we can learn. But probably the solutions are already in the world. We just have to look and find them and pick them.
Yeah. On that note, we have reached the end of our conversation. Thank you so much for your contribution, and thanks for coming here to Euronews today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you.